We're in the season of Advent, preparing for what is coming. The scriptures today have more than one Advent going on. The first historical Advent, when the people of Israel were looking for the Messiah, and the promises from Isaiah as to what this period would be like when the Messiah came. He overflows with beautiful imagery. The land will exult. The trees of Lebanon will sway. Flowers will flower. And he's encouraging us to be strong, stout-hearted, because here is your God. And he continues what that God will do. This is the Messiah. What that God will do. He will open the eyes of the blind. He will let the deaf hear. And he will let those who are lame run like stags. And then even the tongues of the mute will be opened. The first Advent. The second Advent is looking forward to the return of the Messiah. And we hear that in James. How to prepare for the return. So this is Christ's second coming, James is referring to. James knew about Jesus. He had already done what he had to do, and he ascended to the Father. But now we are waiting with John and the apostles and with James for the second coming. And in the meantime, he's asking us, reminding us, I think of my father. See, my father had a little tool bench down the basement in Jersey City where we were raised. And I didn't know how to wield a hammer. I just couldn't do it. I could hit it, but the nail always got crooked. There's some sort of a secret that carpenters know, how to hit and aim and it gets into where it's going. I could never do that. I would give up and I'd say, I can't do it, I can't fix it. But my father would say a phrase that used to go through me like ice, not the people on the street, ice, real cold ice. Time and patience. He would use that. I can hear it echo in my ear. And as I say it out loud, I hear my father's voice, because he was one patient dude. I swear. He would come down, take a cigar out of his mouth, put it on the bench, and say, and here's how you do it. Time and patience. No rushing. Time and patience. Now, he used that phrase in reference to everything in our household, whether it was shoveling the snow or preparing for Christmas or preparing for the summer. Time and patience. Well, I don't think he got that from St. James in the scriptures, but I swear he has the philosophy of James. And James says to all of us, time and patience. Patience, my brothers and sisters, until the coming of the Lord. And that's talking to us, because Jesus had already come and ascended. James is talking to us as we prepare for the second coming. And we throw a third Advent in there, and a third Advent according to our calendars, December 25th. The church is decorated beautifully, and it will be more decorated for that date, December 25th, our Advent, our mini Advent. But the Advent prepares us for the second coming of Christ, the Messiah. And James is directing our attention to that Advent. And he puts pacienza, he puts patience into context. And he says, look at the people sowing seeds. They wait, they plant, they wait for the rain, and they thank God for the rain. The rain makes the plants grow, and we have an abundance. And here's another thing he's warning us to not do. Don't complain about one another, so you won't be judged. The judge, Jesus, is at the gates, coming. He's an example. Now, We're preparing for Christmas. That's us now. This is the third Advent. Do we follow those words? You saw on TV, especially, the opening sales of some stores, the crowds that were marching into the stores, and I have to say, fighting each other in the stores for a bargain, whether it's 50% off or Black Friday sale, but that's not getting ready for the Messiah. That's getting ready for our immediate gratification of Christmas. See, as people, as human beings, we've taken the mystery of heaven and we've placed it on earth for us to observe. Okay, that's appropriate. Jesus came as a human being, as a baby in the crib, and we worship him as God of gods, Lord of lords, light of light. No more the bambino in the crib. But because we're people, we need that little symbolism, I think. I think we need the Christmas tree and the lighting of the candles. And we need the presepio like we put outside already. And we need that character over here to my right, John the Baptist. Because he roots us in reality in the scriptures. We're getting ready. No, not for Christmas. So, but bite my tongue, right? We're not getting ready for Christmas. We're getting ready for the return of the Messiah. But we as human beings need something tangible. We need that, the hay in that crib. We need the little figures to remind us. Mary didn't take pictures of her baby Jesus. So that picture is in our hearts and minds, and we've come through the tradition of our Christian faith to reproduce that event. Yesterday, I was at the Italian Museum here in Mulberry Street, and I gave the history of what we call the presepio. The presepio is the presentation, like outside, you'll see, and you'll see next week here, of the figures surrounding Jesus at the Nativity, the original Nativity. That's for us to appreciate the reality of the past, the event that happened. And while we are doing that to help us appreciate, we have James' advice, patience. So you missed that sale. So you don't have enough money for that particular gift. Think about whose birthday it is anyway. We're giving gifts to each other as if it's each other's birthdays. But it's the birthday of the Prince of Peace. And it's a birthday without a number, because what we're celebrating is his presence again with us. And according to the Holy Scriptures, his presence should bring us joy and love and abundance and appreciation for one another. Not just for a certain segment of our society, not even just for our family, for one another. The hills are alive with music, you might say, as Isaiah is responding and warning and preparing us. What are we preparing for? To hear the angel's announcement, here is your God. He comes with vindication, divine recompense, and he comes to save you. Now, we don't think, maybe I shouldn't speak for all of us, most of us don't think of that on Christmas morning or Christmas Eve. Most of us think of the contemporary, our need, our human focus on little baby Jesus and the shepherds and the sheep and Mary and Joseph. About Mary and Joseph, it's a little P.S. This is a historically Italian parish, and I grew up in a New Jersey Italian parish, Holy Rosary. And I grew up thinking Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, and the whole clan were Italian. And Jerusalem must have been a town in Italy. And what was the logic of that? The logic of it was, what were their names? Maria, Giuseppe, and Jesus. So with the names all being pronounced by my grandparents and my parents in Italian, I thought the Holy Family was Italian. Well, the Holy Family is not Italian, but the Holy Family is universal. It's your family, my family. your origins, my origins. That's why God took flesh, to make us appreciate who we are and how we can prepare for his second coming. And James, again, here we are preparing for Christmas. Now we're going to stay with Christmas, not the second coming, just Christmas, one of our Advents. How many of us have had the experience of putting beautiful lights on our trees and then one little bulb goes out? And how many of us remember people in our families or ourselves when that happened, not praising God, not using words that would honor God, but words that, if we admit it, are embarrassing? Because we were preparing for this Christmas, our Christmas, in our Advent. And the decorations and the ornaments on the trees and the lights in the streets were for our gratification. It got a little twisted, didn't it? How we prepare for the Messiah got a little twisted. But the scriptures today warn us. This is how we prepare. With hearts full of hope, as Isaiah says, and with a sense of humility, and as James says, forgiving one another, not complaining with each other. Okay, so your cookies burnt, throw them away. Make another batch tomorrow. If your lights went out, leave them dead. That's right. You supply the light of your tree and your household, each one of us. There are so many ways to put these scriptures to work for us, so that when December 25th on our calendar comes, we really welcome the Messiah that will come again. Again, it's only for us that we do this Christmas stuff. It's only for our good feelings and, of course, our religious appreciation of the historical birth of Jesus in the flesh. Now, I have to refer back to John the Baptist, because he is a great irony of Advent. Now, we have a wooden statue of him on the side here, and he's holding a staff, and he's holding a little lamb, and he looks pretty neat. Let me tell you, he probably looked like the worst madman person you know, or have ever heard of, or ever seen on media. He lived in the desert, okay, no bath, no shower. He wore camel's hair as his clothing, so skin of the camel that never bathed as his clothing. His food was locusts, bugs, and wild honey. So he came across as a little potts, a little crazy. And they thought he was. Even the disciples of Jesus, who also followed John, thought John was a little on the weak side. And when they go, the followers go to him and say, are you the Messiah? And he says, no, he's coming. I'm not worthy to get down on my knees and undo his sandal straps. He's coming. Again, the misapplication of Advent, the misunderstanding. John must be the Messiah because he's doing all this wonderful works. He says, no. Go back and ask Jesus what he's doing. So John's condemning, he's screaming at people, get washed in the baptisms that I'm giving you, or else you're going to go to hell. He calls the disciples, the Pharisees, vipers, snakes. And Jesus, the person for whom we are waiting, who is the Messiah, comes on the scene. Just remember me, he says. Go back and tell John what I'm doing. Healing the blind, giving strength to those who leap, those who are dumb, who are mute, can sing now, and I'm giving hope. That's the Jesus we got. That's the Jesus who was the flower of the family tree of David. That's the Jesus that we are celebrating. And because we need more than that Jesus in our human lives, we put the tree, we put the nativity, we put all the other stuff. But let's not forget who we are preparing for. Because when he returns, he's going to be a God of vindication, a God of justice, and the God of love. That's our orientation. That's our weeks of Advent, moving toward the second coming. And in our humanity, if we need to celebrate the second coming on December 24th, 25th, good, fine. Not enough. Not enough. We're waiting for the Messiah.